Welcome to the Real World. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World YouTube channel. We're all about celebrating the cinematic art form here. So if you're a movie fan, you're in the right place. Be sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos here at the Real World. We do all kinds of movie reviews, 4K and Blu-ray reviews, out of theater reactions, and top 5 lists like we're doing today. This episode is all about our top 5 favorite romantic comedies. With Valentine's Day coming up, we thought we'd cover this subject we haven't covered before. And joining us again is a guest who appeared on a recent episode, the Defending Bad Movies podcast we did a couple weeks ago. Josh, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for joining us again. Josh and I talk movies all the time. We have for several years now, so I'm excited to have him back on the podcast. Before we get into the topic, the main topic of today's episode, we're going to talk about some movie news. All right, so let's jump into our movie news segment this episode for episode 34. We're first going to talk about A Quiet Place, which I know, Josh, is one of your favorite movies of all time. So I wanted to start with this topic. It's pretty cool that this dropped this week. John Krasinski went on his social media to let people know they are filming the newest Quiet Place movie. Is called A Quiet Place Day One. So this is a prequel. It's going to kind of cover the first day these creatures arrived on Earth, which we got a glimpse of in Quiet Place Part 2. And so kind of expanding on that, we've got Krasinski producing. The story is also written by Krasinski. Michael Sarnowski, the director of Pig, is directing this one. So he's stepping into the director's chair. It's going to cover new characters. So we're not with the Abbott family anymore. We're going to cover new ground here as far as the people we're following. Lupita Nyong'o has been cast, Joseph Quinn, and Alex Wolff. So quite an interesting cast there of main characters. We don't really know much about it outside of that, but I'm excited. So Josh, how are you feeling about Quiet Place Day One?
I'm excited for anything A Quiet Place. As you said, A Quiet Place is one of my favorite movies, period. So I'm excited for anything we get to see in this world. I don't love Pig as much as everyone else seemed to. I didn't really understand why everyone was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know. Maybe I just need to watch it again. But so I'm not maybe as ecstatic as everyone else would be that he's the same director is directing this one. But right. I don't know. I'm all for giving new or up and coming directors a shot at things. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he turns out and what we're going to see more of with Day One here.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to go more into the creatures' backstory maybe and figure out more of who they are, where they came from, what their goals are, that kind of thing. Or, is it going to be, I'm sure it'll be a more human-based story, but I'm just curious to see how the mythology is going to expand in that way. So yeah, I'm excited about it too. I was one of those people that really dug Pig a lot. Specifically, I think it was for Nicolas Cage's performance. I thought it was just something unique for him, and I really liked it a lot. So yeah, I'm excited that he's on board as director. And so yeah, more Quiet Place is a good thing. I really enjoyed those first 2 movies a lot. I may even like the second one better.
Oh, really?
In some ways, yeah, I like the second one a lot. What they did with it. So this one is set for March 8th, 2024.
That sounds close.
Yeah, next year we'll get our new Quiet Place movie, which is cool. So yeah, exciting stuff. All right, moving on to our next news story. There's an animated film that's being released in North America. It's already been released over in Israel, is where it was produced. It's called Legend of Destruction. And they've cast English-speaking actors to voice the characters. They cast Oscar Isaac to voice the lead character, as well as Evangeline Lilly as another main character. Actors already on board include Elliot Gould and Billy Zane. So filling out the cast of this film that's going to be released over here, foreign film. It sounds really unique. First of all, it's chronicling the Jewish revolt, which happened around 66 AD in Jerusalem as the Romans were occupying that region of the world. And so it's based in real history. The producer sounds like he's a really interesting guy. He's putting together this really unique sounding movie where basically they're incorporating 1,500 still paintings into this movie. The movie is made up of these individual paintings that these artists have created. His quote was, "Movement in cinema is an illusion because you're seeing 24 still frames per second. In Legend of Destruction, we tried to push the limits of this illusion a few steps ahead." So it's a very interesting sounding concept. I don't really fully understand it yet, but I'm really curious to just watch it. It's won like 4 or 5 different awards at the Israeli version of the Oscars, basically. And so it's getting a lot of acclaim. It's also interesting because the story, as Oscar Isaac says, he says it is a story that is a great historical suite, but is also very intimate. It is about the personal relationship between the lead character and God. So that's going to be another element, that spiritual element there, that's going to, make me even more intrigued. So no release date yet. They're still, filling out the cast. They've got to do all the voice acting, record all of those performances, and then it'll be released hopefully maybe later this year or next year. So yeah, I'm curious about this. And what do you think about this, Josh?
You had me at Oscar Isaac and Evangeline Lilly, but just looking at some of the stills, you can look up online some of the paintings.
Oh, okay. I haven't done that yet.
It's gorgeous. Like, I don't know how they're gonna. It looks very impressionistic as well. So I'm not sure how they're gonna do like 20 if they're doing 24 frames a second with all these different paintings.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
To like the work that had to go into that is astounding.
Yeah.
But like if they're gonna do that, I think it's just gonna be beautiful to behold. But
yeah.
I don't know. I am in awe of how they're going to do this.
Right. Yeah. Same here. So interested in that. We'll have to wait for Legend of Destruction and see if they come up with a release date soon. All right. Next up is big news from Disney. As we know, a few months ago, regime change happened. Bob Chapek is out. Bob Iger is in. Many people are very excited about this. Iger, he did such a great job in his tenure there, and to have him back is big deal. So he's making lots of changes, which many people think is a very good thing. Unfortunately, that with that comes some layoffs. So unfortunately, they're going to have to lay off about 200,000 people worldwide. They're planning on 5.5 billion in cost reductions. Wow. Their spending, I guess, got kind of out of control. So that's going on. Disney Plus lost 2.4 million subscribers in the fourth quarter of 2022, which is the first loss they've taken since they launched in late 2019. So Bob Iger promised significant transformation is underway for Disney Plus itself, as well as announcing some sequels, which has gotten very mixed reactions from people. So Zootopia 2, that's one that was announced, which I think I kind of saw coming. They did that Zootopia Plus short film series a couple weeks ago. That movie was a big hit and a lot of people liked it. I myself included. I thought it was really fun. So that one was announced. Frozen 3, which we've all been waiting for, especially those of us with young girls in our households, been eagerly anticipating something else to watch other than these 2 Frozen. We're happy to have Frozen 2 because at least we can mix it up. But now we have 3, so that'll be fun. Then Toy Story 5. That was the big announcement that I think took a lot of people off guard. Every time they make a Toy Story movie, I feel like we go through this. Like, another one, really? Do we need a third one? Do we need a fourth one? Do we need a fifth one? But look, personally, I think they're all great. Really, I almost want to say that they keep getting better. I mean, the third one was so good. And then 4, I thought they'll never be able to top it. And I think they topped it, actually. The ending of Woody's story for me was really impactful. I really enjoyed it. The new characters they introduced were great. Bringing Bo Peep back was great. So look, at this point, I'm like, just make 20 of these. I don't care. Just keep them coming. Every 2 years, just make a new Toy Story. So that's where I'm at. What are your thoughts on, some of this news, specifically the sequels that they announced?
Well, I thought Zootopia, the first one, just came out of nowhere, and I really liked that movie. I liked even though it's like a kids movie, I liked the depth of like emotional depth, and like, oh, we're gonna show some tough things. Right. Like, that was really cool. That's the main thing that stood out to me in that film. But it's also really funny, and just like a really cool world they built.
Yeah.
or like a bunch of little worlds within one world. Anyway,
Right.
but so I missed the Disney Plus series. I haven't seen it yet, or the
Okay.
shorts, but I am really looking forward to it. Zootopia 2. I think that's probably, out of the three of these sequels announced, that's the one I'm probably most excited for.
Okay. Cool.
Um, I don't have little girls running around at home, so
Right.
uh, I'm not maybe as eager as for Frozen 3 as you are, maybe for something else to put on. But
Right.
I did really enjoy the first two. So
Yeah.
like it's kind of like so hyped that people are like, boo, Frozen, but that's just whatever.
Yeah.
Haters gonna hate.
Right.
I'm excited. I don't know what they're gonna do with the third movie, but hopefully, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there. I'll be there in the theater watching it. Um, was pleasantly surprised by the second one, so we'll see what we get in the third one.
Right.
And then Toy Story 5. I thought 4 was supposed to be the last one. I thought they had said that. Maybe they didn't. Maybe that was just my imagination. But
I think Hanks said it's Woody's last one. I
oh,
think that's what I remember hearing anyway.
huh.
But already Tim Allen has come out on Twitter, said, "Let's go, Woody," and like he's ready
Okay.
to. So Tim Allen's definitely in. I don't know if Hanks is in, or if he's going to cameo maybe, or if it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure.
So a story without Woody would be really interesting
It
because
would.
I don't know, like even like in Toy Story 4, which I think I agree, that's like my favorite out of them. Like the parts that Woody's not in, where it's just like Buzz kind of leading the group. I don't know. Those
They were
don't.
the
Maybe
weakest
it's
parts of the
just
movie.
it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and I don't know if
Yeah.
maybe that's because like just the writing for that part, or I don't know. Like Tim Allen is obviously fine. It's not his fault or
Sure.
anything,
Right.
but like I don't know. So if you're saying it's an entire movie without Woody, I don't know. It kind of worries me a little bit, but
Yeah.
also they've hit it out of the park every single time, like you said, and Pixar 9 times out of 10 hits it out of the park anyway with any of their movies.
Right.
So I'm definitely looking forward to another one, and we'll see what they do. We'll see where the story goes. Like we saw like Andy grow up, and so now he's
Right.
at college. Are we gonna, and now some of the toys with Bonnie. So like, are we gonna see Bonnie grow up, or are we gonna like, is it gonna be Andy's kids? Like, what are we gonna see here? I don't know. That'd be really, really cool if it's Andy's kids and it kind of comes full circle.
That would be interesting. That's a great idea. I hadn't even thought of, is going back to Andy now having children of his own. That would be cool. But yeah, they're with Bonnie now, and it could be just her growing up. Yeah, if it's just a Buzz and Jesse and the gang, and Woody's not in it, that would be very different.
Mhm.
But Woody's off doing his own thing now. I mean, where we left him, he's not with the gang anymore. So yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do, but like you said, Pixar, they rarely let us down. So
Mhm.
yeah, looking forward to it. Okay, let's jump into our next story, which is the live action Spider-Man series coming to Amazon. This is a big deal. This is the first ever live action Spider-Man series.
Mhm.
It's based on Spider-Man Noir. So this is a character, if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, you know this character. He's voiced by Nicolas Cage in that movie. He's basically a 1930s superhero in this gritty, grimy New York City. Nicolas Cage said he based him on Humphrey Bogart and like a lot of his,
Mhm.
gangster movies, film noir films like Maltese Falcon and stuff like that. So basically, that's what they're saying. The show will follow an old, grizzled superhero, not Peter Parker, in 1930s New York City. And so it's a totally kind of separate thing outside of the mainline, Spider-Man stuff that we know. Lord and Miller are producing, who are behind the Into the Spider-Verse. They're behind the Lego movie. Really enjoy their work. Oren Uriel is writing the film. He wrote the recent film The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. He also did the recent Mortal Kombat movie, Cloverfield Paradox, and the upcoming John Wick Chapter 4. So
Okay.
quite a good resume this guy has. And so I'm curious to see what he does with it. Now, so the question becomes, will it tie in any way to the upcoming Spider-Man movies, the Spider-Man spinoffs,
Mm.
Morbius, Sinister Six, Craven the Hunter? Like they have all these movies in development at Sony. And we'll have to just wait and see if it ties in or not. I think it'd be cool if it did.
Mhm.
They've already set up the multiverse. Obviously, the MCU is doing that whole thing, and they teased it at the end of Morbius again with Vulture. So, yeah, very curious about how they'll end up, tying this in, if at all, or is it just going to stand alone? Which I'd be cool with that too. That's important, I think, to have standalone properties as well. So, yeah, your thoughts on Spider-Man Noir?
Well, first did they confirm that Nick Cage is coming back for this?
They did not. See, that's another thing I'm
Okay.
curious about. See if it was, because since it's live action, I think it makes sense to go with a younger actor, especially if
It
they want this
does.
to last a little longer. But it would be cool to see Nick Cage as a live
It
action
would be.
Spider-Man noir.
Well, I mean, I guess that'd be two superheroes in the Marvel universe, since he was Ghost Rider.
Oh, right.
But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I guess anytime he suits up to be a superhero, it would be like, oh, he wasn't Superman, so he gets to do this instead. I don't know.
Right.
It's cool.
It's true.
Um, but Spider-Man Noir was one of my favorite characters in that entire Spider-Verse movie.
Mine too.
So it was just like, this is so great. So to say we're getting a whole series for this,
Right,
I am
right.
stoked. And
Yeah.
it's noirs and live action, so we're gonna get that all the beautiful noir ambiance and the
Hmm.
rain and the shadows, and
Right.
like I couldn't be more excited for this
Yes.
series.
Same with me. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of film noir. Going back to, like I said, Humphrey Bogart stuff to more neo-noir stuff like Blade Runner, all that is really, really fascinating to me, that whole
Mm.
history of that kind of genre. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. No release date yet. Hopefully they'll start shooting this year, and maybe we'll get some episodes next year on Amazon. All right, moving on to our next story, we wanted to discuss the DC news, which continues to develop over at Warner Brothers. James Gunn is now the co-CEO of DC Studios. He announced his big slate, which we talked about last week. And now Twitter exchanges have been happening. He's very active on Twitter, which I like a lot. It lets him kind of get out there and let people know what he's doing and kind of shoot down the false rumors and that kind of thing,
Mm.
which I think is really helpful. So he's responded to this hashtag that started a few weeks ago called "Sell the Snyderverse to Netflix." So
Mm.
a lot of hardcore Snyder fans have been wanting, obviously, that storyline to continue. I'm one of them. I really would love to see his story completed. This hashtag is a little silly to me. I don't think Warner Brothers would ever sell rights to their characters anywhere. That would be a very dumb move. But basically, Gunn responded to this saying, I have to say, this has got to be the wackiest hashtag ever, since number one, Netflix hasn't expressed any such interest, although we've discussed other stuff. And number two, Zach hasn't expressed any interest and seems to be happy doing what he's doing. And yes, we too have talked. So that basically confirmed, yeah, this is not going to happen. Netflix is not going to continue the Snyder storyline. But it's interesting that he says they've discussed other stuff, which I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's interesting that Warner Brothers has their streaming service, HBO Max. I don't know why they would be discussing something with Netflix over there. I don't know. I don't know what that's about, but we don't know anything about that yet. The other thing, of course, being, Zach not expressing interest. Someone asked, what have y'all talked about? Was asked, what did you and Zach talk about? And he said, he contacted me to express his support about my choices. He's a great
Mm.
guy. Again, he seems really happy with the massive world building he's doing now. So obviously, Zach is building the Army of the Dead franchise. He's doing sequels to that and spinoffs, an animated series with that. And he's, of course, doing Rebel Moon now, which is coming out in December, which will be a two-part film, as well as potentially spinoffs and other things down the road as well. So he's very busy
Mm.
with all that stuff. And it's great to know that he's happy doing that he's not kind of wallowing in, oh man, I wish I could finish my Zack Snyder trilogy or my Justice League movies and all that. And I think that's what a lot of fans like me kind of maybe were torn on, this whole new DC universe. We so wanted that. I'm a huge fan of all of his movies he did at DC. And so I kind of needed this, I feel like, in a way,
Mm.
just to help me kind of go, okay, he's happy doing what he's doing. He's supportive of James Gunn's choices. It kind of just makes me a little more satisfied than just kind of felt like James Gunn just kind of rushed in there and he's like, oh, we're just destroying everything they did and now we're bringing in our new thing. It just maybe wasn't handled as well as it could have been. But this stuff like this helps. It's like, okay, the creator that was involved before, he's moved on. He's supportive of what's going on. I forgot they actually made their first film, or Zach's first film, Dawn of the Dead, was written by James Gunn, which is cool. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, the script was
Huh.
written by James Gunn, and so they've known each other for literally like over 2 decades now, and
Yeah.
I guess have stayed in contact. And it's just cool to see creators supporting one another. And so I'm kind of a little more on board, I guess you could say, with the DC universe now that I've heard this. I think it helps fans like me. So I know you're a big Snyder fan as well. What are your thoughts on this?
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. It does. It's a little aloe on the burn there that
Right.
happened when James Gunn pulled the rug out from under us there.
Yes.
Especially right after Cavill came back on Black Adam,
Oh,
which
I know. Ugh,
is handled so poorly, so
it
poorly.
was.
And I agree. We've talked before about like why didn't they just reboot it, continue, let the Snyderverse finish out, and then reboot it in the Flash. Which
Yeah.
that's the part that it kind of made me upset when James Gunn announced everything and he said, and then we're going to reboot everything with the Flash. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do anyway?
Right.
And then just give us the other movies.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Like you said, it's kind of impossible right now with Zack Snyder being so busy. I get it. It's just really unfortunate. But yeah, I'm not sure what they would sell to Netflix. And yeah, they wouldn't. That seems silly that they would sell that off to Netflix anyway, which I get why people may have jumped on that because Zack Snyder's already over there doing stuff, but also because, and he's been there doing stuff, but also because Netflix has picked up many things before that have been dropped by other, mostly TV shows, but things that have been dropped by other studios. So maybe that's where people were coming from. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. So yeah, so an interesting development. We'll have to wait and see if anything DC pops up on Netflix in the future. And of course, we're looking forward to all of Zack Snyder's movies and the DC movies. Look, I'm a lifelong DC fan, so I'm going to be first in line for all of those films in the theater. So yeah, interesting stuff. All right, so jumping into our next story here, a lot of movie news to cover today, obviously. AMC Theaters has decided to change their ticket prices. And the way they're going to do this is by seating. So very interesting tactic here. I do not think it's going to pay off. I think this is a bad move. But here's what they've got. They've got preferred seating, which will be all the seats basically in the middle, all those seats that everyone wants to get, center seating, middle of the theater, looking directly at the screen. Value seating will be the very front rows and the sides. Okay, so those value are going to be, I'm guessing, much cheaper than the middle, which is going to be preferred, probably the highest price, and then standard, which will be everything else. So other than the very sides and the very front, the standard will be everything around the middle, I'm guessing, kind of. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, but it's kind of a weird idea. I get that, I'm sure they're having financial difficulties since COVID, every theater is, but I don't think this is the way to go about handling that. I think it's a really odd choice that is going to alienate a lot of moviegoers from going to AMC theaters. So yeah, I think it's a bad idea. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I think this is going to blow up in their face, and I kind of hope it does because I don't like it. I get like they were like, oh, if you go to the theater, like the theater proper, or concert events, it's by seating, ticket prices. Okay, I get that. This is a movie theater. It hasn't been that way for 100 years. Yeah. Why are we doing this now? This makes no sense. Yeah, maybe the one angle I didn't realize it didn't cover the value is also on the sides. That's a little nicer, but yeah, I think the one angle that they have going here is that they're trying to hope to maybe push more people into A-list.
That's a good point.
I didn't see anything about that listed in any of the news, but it doesn't make sense that it would be affected because you're paying one price to sit wherever you want. So maybe they're trying to push more people into that, which could be the only upside here. I don't think this is going to last very long.
Yeah, I don't see it lasting long either. I think it's going to, like you said, kind of blow up in their face. And a lot of people have come out against it, even on social media. I saw Elijah Wood post about it, and he was very much against it. And so, yeah, I think it's a bad move. I think they'll discover that pretty quickly, and hopefully it'll all go back to the way it should be. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. Okay, moving into our next story, just wanted to briefly mention that the next Riddick film has been announced. Chronicles of Riddick is a film series starring Vin Diesel, sort of a lower budget, sci-fi storyline, which I thoroughly enjoy these movies, actually. Pitch Black is the first one. It's sort of a horror film, more of a sci-fi horror in the vein of Alien, kind of. The second one is called The Chronicles of Riddick. That's more of a sci-fi action movie, which is a lot of fun. And then the third film is just called Riddick. And I enjoyed that one as well. I thought that one was pretty good too. So they announced the fourth film. It's called Furia. They're in pre-production already, so it should probably be in theaters next year. They're hoping. Vin Diesel is coming back as the title character. David Towie is coming back to direct. He's directed all these films. They say it's going to explore Riddick's origin story some more. So I don't know if it'll actually be a prequel or if it'll be like there'll be flashbacks or him just returning to his home world or something like that. But I'm curious to see where they take this. Again, it's kind of a sci-fi franchise that's been going on for over 20 years, but it's kind of flown under the radar. Not a lot of people even know about it, I feel like. So have you seen any of the Riddick movies, Josh?
I have not. I've kind of seen like posters and stuff, and I kind of knew they were connected because of different names. I didn't really.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, I don't know which one's first, or I don't know. I never watched it, but I am intrigued hearing about it now.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what they do with it, and I don't know how many movies they're planning on doing. If this will be the last one or not, they haven't said. But it's Vin Diesel's kind of other franchise that he's got in the works. But let's jump into his major franchise that everyone knows him for, which is Fast and Furious. I've talked about my relationship with these movies before on the podcast. I was avoiding them for a long time until I saw that the 9th movie was coming. I said, 9 movies? They have as many movies as Star Wars? Really? I've got to check this out. I've got to see what's going on here. So we binge watched through the entire franchise right before the 9th movie came out. And I was thoroughly impressed. The first 3, I was like, okay, they're fine. They're not great. It's like the first one's like Point Break with cars, basically, instead of surfing. And then, the second one's kind of ridiculous. And then the third one is sort of more about the street racing. But the fourth one, that's the one that really got me on board. It's a really cool action movie. And they've kind of just gone to this kind of bonkers action extravaganza place ever since. Everyone kind of feels like it has to up the last one. So they're a lot of fun. Great characters. It's all about family. I know everyone knows this joke by now. It's all about family, but it really is. And it's kind of a cool, surrogate family that's kind of created with all these different characters that they end up meeting along the way. And so Fast X, the trailer for the 10th Fast and Furious movie, is now online. And this is the road to the end. This is the first of a 2-part finale to the whole franchise. So look, I was blown away by it. I thought it was great. Jason Momoa as the villain is a perfect choice. Brie Larson has been added to the cast this time. Rita Moreno, prestigious actress that she is. I think she won an Oscar. Helen Mirren's in there, another Oscar winner. Charlize Theron. The cast is kind of insane. And then, the action matches it. It's just kind of over the top craziness, which we expect at this point. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll be first in line to see it. But you haven't seen any of these, right?
No.
So what is your thought on this trailer?
Well, aside from Hobbs and Shaw, I don't actually know that I've seen an entire trailer for any of the Fast and Furious movies, let alone the movies themselves. Okay. I've seen clips here and there, and like we're going to space scene. Right. So, whatever. But I don't know. Like if this was like, even if this had nothing to do with Fast and Furious and was just its own movie, right, I'm just as intrigued.
Okay, cool.
I might venture to just see this one without seing any of the other ones, just see how
that
it goes.
That would be interesting, yeah.
And then go back and watch through them all. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe this will be the gateway drug, if you will.
Right.
I don't know. It looked like you said, Jason Momoa, Helen Mirren, like all these actors and everything, and the action, and it like, yes, it's the joke now, but it's about family, but like it's about his actual biological family, it looks like. Yes. So that's a really cool spin here. And I don't know, it looks like everything, all the jokes and everything about it is like always having to ramp it up, and it kind of has a negative, not a negative, but just like a whimsical, right, action fodder, whatever,
made fun of a lot. Yeah,
right, yeah. But like this one was like, oh, this is like not necessarily a little more serious, but a little more like it takes itself seriously than I thought it did. Or
right,
like, I don't know, it looks like a genuinely good action film and not like just we're making movies for money, like people, right, like whatever. So right. I don't know. I am definitely interested in this. I will probably see it in theaters.
Okay,
it looks like it's gonna be a good ride.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the road to the end. So I'd be very curious to get your thoughts if you jump in cold or if you decide to watch them all. That would be we have to have you back on the podcast maybe to talk about your Fast X experience
Mm.
which would be fun. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. That comes out in May, so coming up soon. All right, another trailer that dropped is for a movie called Paint. This looks really interesting. I don't really know what to make of this. It's kind of Bob Ross played by Owen Wilson, but he's not Bob Ross, but he's very much inspired by Bob Ross. I don't know if it's a bio. I haven't read much into this. So watching the trailer, I was a little confused. Is this supposed to be a biopic
Yeah.
that are they making fun as like a spoof of Bob Ross almost? Like I really don't know what to make of it. I'm intrigued because I like Owen Wilson and you know, but I don't know. I'm just kind of a little dumbfounded on this one. What are your thoughts on this trailer?
Yeah, much the same. Like it starts out and you're like, oh, okay, oh, they're making a biopic about Bob Ross with Owen Wilson. Okay, okay, I'm on board with that. And then it starts to get a little weird and
Yeah.
like please don't ruin Bob Ross's innocence. I don't know what's
Right.
going on here. And yeah, and then like you said, is this supposed to be like the Weird Al movie, but for Bob Ross, which I think could
Right.
work, but it could be
Yeah.
weird. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I like by the end of the trailer, I was like, what is this movie? And
Yeah.
I was kind of disinterested, but
Right.
I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah. I'll at least stream it. I mean, yeah, like you said, I don't know if the weird is a good comparison because yeah, it had that vibe of like, okay, it's clearly Bob Ross, like they got the
Mhm.
hair and everything, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're taking it a very different direction than I was expecting. So yeah, I'm really not sure. Maybe another trailer will give us a better context of what this is, and
Yeah.
they'll explain it a little better. But yeah, I mean he's not called Bob Ross in the movie, so
Oh, I didn't catch
um,
that.
yeah, they never call him Bob. They call him like Carl or something else. So
Oh, weird.
yeah, I don't know. We'll have to we'll have to wait and see, I guess, and see what kind of movie we end up with there.
Okay.
Moving on to the next trailer for Air. So Air is a movie coming out this April. So pretty soon.
That's
Directed,
soon.
yeah, it's coming out April 5th. So Ben Affleck's the director of this. First one he's directed since Live by Night, which was a few years back.
Mm.
So excited to see him back in the director's chair. He's starring in the movie as well, alongside his lifelong friend Matt Damon, and Viola Davis is in this as well as Jason Bateman. So quite a good cast. It's all about Nike's deal with rookie at the time Michael Jordan to create the Air Jordan brand. Back when Nike wasn't really a big name like they are now. So interesting story, look, like I always say, they made a good movie out of Facebook. So any brand, I guess they can make,
Mm.
you could make a good movie about anything. Just depends on who's involved. So they've got a good team together, and it looks like it's going to be funny. It looks like it's got a lot of heart, and so yeah, I'll be there. It's an Amazon film, but it's their widest theatrical release. They're going to release it in 3,000
Oh, wow.
theaters across
Wow.
the United States, and then later on it'll be available on Prime. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Air?
I'm excited for it. I don't really care about Nike the company, but because of recent last couple of years, but I know really nothing about their history. I didn't know they weren't like from the trailer, like and what you said, like it's implied that they weren't really anything big before Air Jordan. I didn't know that. I didn't know when Air Jordan came out. I didn't know it was tied to him being a rookie. I didn't know any of that. So it'll be really interesting on a historical perspective. Plus, I mean, it's hard to beat Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, like them two together. It looks, at least for Matt Damon's part, it looks like it's kind of in a similar vein as to with Ford versus Ferrari, kind of that like historical, like we're trying to do something film, which I really like. Plus, I really like Matt Damon, so I am totally on board with this.
Same here. I'm excited to see it. All right. So before we leave our movie news segment completely, we want to talk about birthday. It was celebrated this past week from a very famous filmmaker named John Williams. He turned 91 this year, which is incredible. He's still working too. I mean, he just did the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny score. He's, I think, already lined up his next project with Steven Spielberg as well. So just an incredible, brilliant composer. Composed some of the greatest themes in movie history. he, I call him a filmmaker because in my mind, without him, the film would not be the same. Every movie he's worked on, he's had such a great influence on. I think Spielberg even says that. He's like, my movies are not complete until Williams gets his score in there, So, his music is a character in the movie itself. So he's done a great job over the years. Some of my favorites, I mean, just my favorite movies, Indiana Jones, all those movies have great scores. Superman, his Superman theme is iconic. Star Wars, of course, that music is incredible and famous. Jaws, one of the great kind of simple horror scores that works so well. E.T. is one of my favorites as well. So many over the years that he's done that I really, really enjoy. Josh, any thoughts on Mr. Williams?
Just to echo everything you said there, he's my favorite film composer. It is going to be a really, really sad day when he goes, but I am glad that he is still here. He's still making films. I thought, didn't he say that Indiana Jones was his last? I mean, I guess if he's doing another Spielberg, then it's definitely not the case. But
he seemed to imply that at one point, and I think it might have been taken out of context. I think he was talking about it was his last Indiana Jones score because it's Harrison's last Indiana Jones movie. So I think that's what he was referring to. But I heard that too. But I think that was maybe taken out of context.
Yeah, I mean, his mind, he's still with it. So obviously, so as long as your mind's active, you can put pen to paper or tell someone what to write, then you can still compose a score. So maybe he won't conduct as much, but
right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to anything he puts out.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have a favorite score of his? It's hard to pick, I know, but
it is hard to pick. I think I have to say Star Wars just because it's my favorite. Man, there's so many good ones. A couple you didn't mention. I really like now Warhorse.
Oh, yes.
I think it's like 1912 Dartmoor or something, or whatever that 1912. I'm getting the dates wrong because I'm thinking of the 1912 Overture. But there's a track on there with the date. Listen to that one, is just beautiful.
Okay, great.
And then Hook, which I guess people have mixed opinions on, but the score is really good. It's just really fun and energizing and jovial.
Yeah, excellent. Great picks. Okay, last thing, a movie anniversary that's being celebrated this week is Disney's Peter Pan. And it is celebrating its 70th anniversary. It was released February 5th, 1953. It was Disney's 14th animated movie. It's one of my favorites of theirs. It was the final film in which all of Disney's 9 old men worked together as directing animators. So it's pretty big in that regard. It was also the final Disney film released by RKO Pictures before Walt Disney Pictures distribution was founded. So kind of a game changer for them in many ways. Is based on J.M. Barrie's 1904 play. And it got a sequel called Return to Neverland in 2002, which I think is pretty good, actually. The 2003 live action remake was really good. That I think Fox was behind that. David Lowery, the director behind The Green Knight, is directing a live action remake of this film for Disney right now, which is actually set for release later this year. So it will come to Disney Plus, I think sometime in December. Jude Law is set to play Hook. Jim Gaffigan is going to play Mr. Smee. And
fits perfectly.
I know, it's so good. So yeah, it's called Peter Pan and Wendy. And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, Peter Pan, it's just one of those classic stories that I grew up with. This animated version is tough to beat. I mean, I think it's still my favorite of all the ones I've seen. There's been a lot out there. So yeah, it's one that I wanted to mention as it's coming up on its 70th anniversary.
I haven't seen the recent Pan, which I heard was horrible. But even the theatrical meaning Broadway version of Peter Pan. I can't remember the actress's name who plays Peter Pan, but that one's excellent as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't checked out that, but I might have to find it. All right, well, that's it for our movie news segment. That was a longer movie news segment than usual. A lot of news dropped this week, but we wanted to cover as much as we can to keep you guys informed. But now we're going to jump into our main topic, which is our top 5 romantic comedies of all time. So the rom-com genre, as it's become known, has been around for a very long time. and there's some really fun movies in this genre. There's, it gets a lot of flack, I think, this genre, because it's like, I'm just throwing some rom-com. They're kind of like a dime a dozen. There's so
Mhm.
many of them out there. There's so many bad ones that I think whittling it down to a top five was, for me, kind of easy in a way.
Mm.
Even though there are quite a few that I enjoy, that since I've been married, my wife has shown me many. I didn't used to gravitate toward this genre. I don't have sisters. I have all brothers, so we just watch action movies all the time. But this is a genre that I've grown to enjoy quite a bit, and there's some really good ones. There's some ones that I have no problem just watching these all the time. These are my top five. These are ones I've watched numerous times, and I've got several honorable mentions as well. So Josh, do you want to mention some of your honorable mentions? I know you have a few as well.
Yeah, I think you said you pretty easily whittled it down to your top five. I think I got around top 10 before it started getting a little difficult.
Right. Yeah.
My first pick was by far and away my favorite one, so that one was easy. But after that,
Okay.
it was a little hard to order them.
Sure.
Some of the ones I had, Leap Year,
Oh,
that
okay.
was a fun one with Amy Adams. Hitch,
Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
that one's pretty good. One of Kevin James's best, I'd say.
Oh yeah.
Even though he's not technically the main character, Will Smith is.
Sure.
But The Proposal, Ryan Reynolds,
Oh
Sandra Bullock,
yeah.
that
That
one's a
one's funny.
classic.
Hmm.
While You're Sleeping, another Sandra Bullock classic. I feel like Sandra Bullock and Meg Ryan are like the main two that have been in so many of these. But sorry, what were we
Yes.
going to say?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that I just watched that for the first time this
Mm.
past Christmas, because it's set during Christmas, and we were looking for Christmas movies we hadn't seen, and so we watched that. It's on Disney Plus, I think, and
Oh,
we
really?
had, yeah, because I think it was a
That's
Fox
odd.
film.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
they have it now. But yeah, really, really enjoy that. I'm a big Bill Pullman fan as well, and they both do a
Hmm.
great job in that movie. So yeah, that's a good one to mention.
Yeah, one other one I'll mention as well is it up until this week it was in my top five. But I watched it again and it bumped out.
Ooh, wow.
It was Jerry Maguire with
Oh,
Tom Cruise and Renee
yes.
Zellweger.
Yep.
Which so I guess the context here is the first time I watched it with a program called VidAngel, which allows you to remove some of the garbage or words or whatever you don't
Right.
want to hear or see.
Sure.
And there's some sex scenes and nudity in that movie
Right.
that I got taken out.
Mhm.
So I didn't have that in there when I watched it, and I
Oh,
knew
I
they were in
see.
there, but
Right.
like it didn't corrupt the movie at all, if you
I
will.
gotcha. Right. Right.
So it was just all the beautiful parts of the film that remained, and so I
Sure.
loved it. I thought it was
Right.
amazing, and then watched it again,
Yeah.
and this time I didn't have the scenes removed.
Mhm.
Wasn't looking obviously, but
Yeah.
I knew they were there,
Yeah.
and so it just I don't know, kind of soiled the movie for me.
Sure. I hear you.
So it dropped down, and
Gotcha.
not only just the presence of them, but the way they were done. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a weird time for movies, and so that was whatever.
Yeah.
But
I hear
the
you.
bright parts of that about that movie I really like. Like
Yeah.
I can't believe that that's where you had me at hello and you completely came from. I
Yeah.
feel like those phrases have been around forever, and it's just, oh, people have always said that. Well,
No,
apparently
yeah.
not,
I know.
which
Yeah.
that's astounding. And
Yeah.
then
Iconic lines.
yeah, and I can't remember the child actor's name. Unfortunately, I should have looked it up. But the
Jonathan
same kid
Lipnicki.
who's yes, I say
Yep.
the same kid who's in Stuart Little. He just I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's like he tread the line perfectly between acting and being a kid, or maybe he was just being a kid the whole time. I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he's just the brightest spot of that movie. It's so
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
And I just love so many of those scenes. Like, oh, I got to go back to bed. My mom's coming, and just
Hey.
like repeating things. It was really cool. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was in my top five. Now it's
Got bumped
number
out.
6.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got a few I wanted to mention. I've got a big stack over here. I'll bring them over. So, very close to making it was Some Like It Hot. This is a 1959 film by Billy Wilder, one of my favorite writer directors. Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe. It is hilarious. Rewatched it recently. I've got the Criterion Blu-ray here. It looks amazing.
Oh, nice.
And really, really fun. My wife and I both enjoy that one a lot. Bringing Up Baby. This one was very close to making it. Another classic. This one from 1938,
Oh, wow.
starring Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn. Howard Hawks directed this. Another one of my favorite directors. Criterion version looks and sounds great. That one's a lot of fun. So that was almost in there. Another oldie from 1940, The Philadelphia Story. So this is Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant, and Katharine Hepburn, all three playing off one another, kind of a love triangle situation, which is a lot of fun. That trope has been done many times before. But yeah, this is one of the best. George Cukor directed this and did an excellent job. So if you don't have this on Criterion, I highly recommend it. This is actually J.J. Abrams' favorite movie, if you didn't know.
I did know because you told me, and I have
Oh,
that
really?
copy
Okay.
because you told me.
Another one I watched recently within the last year. This came out, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. It's called Yesterday. I'm a
I've
big
heard good
Beatles
things about
fan.
that.
Yeah, this is all about this guy who is a musician who wakes up one day and he's the only one who remembers that the Beatles existed. And since he's a musician, he can kind of rewrite all their songs and perform them as if they're his own. It's just really fun, a really fun idea. I thought they executed it fairly well. Richard Curtis wrote it. Danny Boyle directed it. Lily James is in it. It's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. And so, yeah, I had to mention Yesterday. I couldn't go without mentioning my wife's favorite, which has also become one of my favorites, 10 Things I Hate About You. This is from 1999. Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles star in this one. It is really well done. It's loosely based on The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare. And so it's, kind of modernized version of that type of story. It's really, really good. Great kind of high school teen comedy. It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it as well. Very young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And so, yeah, highly recommend this one if you haven't checked it out. So yeah, those are some of my honorable mentions that I had to get out there.
Aside from Philadelphia Story, I haven't seen any of those. So
okay.
I have seen the Can't Take My Eyes Off You scene from 10 Things I Hate About You, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen any of those. So those are being added to my list so I can check those out.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, I think we're ready to kick it off with our top 5. Did you want to start or do you want me to start? Do you have a preference?
You can go ahead.
You want me to start? Okay, cool. All right. So we're starting off with another classic from the golden age of cinema in the 1930s. So we're going way back to 1934 with It Happened One Night. So this is a movie by Frank Capra, who a lot of people will know as the director of stuff like It's a Wonderful Life or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He directed that as well. So he's kind of one of the great, classic American directors. He did this movie with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. It's really kind of the prototype for all romantic comedies, essentially. It's kind of
really?
like, yeah, it's like, The Odd Couple. She's kind of a well-to-do family. He's just this, kind of low-down newspaper reporter, and he's trying to get a story. She runs away from home and they kind of go on this road trip together. So it's kind of a road movie mixed with this kind of, odd couple pairing. Capra just does a great job directing. It's really well shot. Gable and Colbert both play very well off of one another as very different types of characters. It's it was the first of 3 films in history to win all 5 major categories at the Oscars. So this won Best Picture, Director, Screenplay, Actor, and Actress the year it was released, which is a pretty big deal. It's also the last of the pre-code era films. So before this, when this movie was made, there was no production code, meaning that there was basically no rating system, essentially. After the code came in, they put a lot of restrictions on what filmmakers could and couldn't put in their movies. So not that there's anything bad in this one particularly, but there is a scene where she, lifts her skirt up a little bit to get a car to pull over, the hitchhiker thing, which would not have been allowed after this. So just little things like that seem tame to us nowadays, but it's interesting as a part of film history. So yeah, this is one that I visited numerous times and I really, really enjoy it. And so yeah, it had to make the list. It was just a matter of where it was going to go. And after rewatching many of these, it ended up at number 5. So that's my number 5. It Happened One Night.
I haven't seen it, but I am definitely intrigued to check that out, especially given the historical aspect. I didn't realize that it won those Oscars. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. And Criterion has a great edition here, which has a nice little booklet and everything. So yeah, once they have their half off sale, I recommend you pick it up.
Okay, definitely.
All right, what's your number
Um,
5, Josh?
so my number five is going in the exact opposite direction of a classic historical pick. Mine's just a couple of years old.
Okay.
It is Set It Up, which I
Oh.
believe was a Netflix film.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but, but it's with Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch, which I think I'm pronouncing that
Oh,
correctly.
right.
Um, which she's in Top Gun Maverick, and she's in the Outcast with Mark
Okay.
Rylance.
Okay, cool.
Um, so yeah, it's about. Have you seen the film?
Okay, so wait, I'm sorry. You said Glenn Powell from Top Gun Maverick and
Yeah,
Zoe's from The Outfit.
the outfit. Thank you. I'm sorry. I
Outfit.
knew that
Okay.
didn't
I just
sound
wanted to
right.
make sure I wasn't thinking of something else. Yeah,
No, thank you.
Outfit. Yeah,
Sorry.
she was great in that. She was great.
She
And
was.
he's a great actor too. I saw him in Top Gun and he's in Devotion as well.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that as well. That was pretty
Yeah.
good. But yeah, it's basically about two interns or two assistants that have horrible bosses that overwork them and are rude to them and keep them there all hours of the night. Like, I don't know how either of them stayed in these jobs. I would have left a long time ago. Basically, intolerable working circumstances.
Right.
But they bump into each other and they both realize they have horrible bosses. So they conspire to get their bosses together, because if the bosses are together and in love, then they can have some of their lives back.
Right.
So it's an interesting premise, but it's a rom coms. Obviously they fall in love,
Right.
and I won't spoil everything that happens there, but it is a little raunchy, especially in the beginning. I don't think anything's shown, just what's said is a little raunchy. So it's my friend put it on, and I thought it was going to be like, I saw, okay, it's rated R, it's got this stuff in it, so it's going to be like Game Night or Tag, where it's supposed to be like a good funny movie, but as stuff in it.
Right.
But I was pleasantly surprised. I was actually really blown away. It's so much so it's number 5
Wow.
on my list. And it's mainly the part that just grabbed me was both Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch, just the characters' interactions together and just their relationship. And it's just, I don't know, it left me with a smile on my face. It was just a really sweet, fun movie in that aspect. And it was funny too. Obviously, it has to be a rom-com. It's got to be funny. So it was.
Excellent. That's great. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I have heard of it, but didn't get a chance to watch it. So yeah, that'll go on the watch list. That's great. Great pick. Okay, we're going to jump into my number 4 now, which is another classic. This is going to be a theme in my list. 1940s His Girl Friday. This one is so much fun. This is hilarious. It is from Howard Hawks. Again, I already mentioned Did Bringing Up Baby. This one I like a little bit more than that one. And his direction's just stupendous. The screenplay is so well written. It's kind of it's what they used to call screwball comedy. It's not really, we don't really use that term anymore, but screwball comedy basically satirizes the traditional love story and puts emphasis on the equality between male and female roles, which was new kind of back then, And so it's really great. There's this great back and forth between Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell. And they have such great, just very fast, snappy, clever dialogue that's really well written, and it's really fun to listen to. And so that's kind of the main reason I picked this one, is just because it's so well written. And it's kind of unique in that it focuses on a divorced couple. So the beginning of the movie, they're divorced. They want nothing to do with each other. And it's kind of a reconciliation story.
I like that.
And the backdrop is they're both kind of work at this newspaper. So it's kind of a tough, like, newspaper drama. It's a little gritty, like some of the stuff that they're dealing with. But then it's got the comedic romantic element to it as well. So they're kind of at each other's throats a lot, screaming at one another. But there's also this kind of interesting story going on in the background that kind of brings them together. So very well done, very quick pace. There's never a dull moment in this movie as you're watching it. So very well done on every level. It's one, again, I've visited numerous times, and I've got the Criterion Collection edition as well of this one, which actually includes a movie called The Front Page. It's basically the play. So it's the movie is an adaptation of the hit play The Front Page.
Wow.
And so they've got a brand new restoration of the 1931 film version, which is an adaptation of that same material. So
Oh, that's
basically,
cool.
you're getting two movies for one here,
Yeah.
essentially, which is pretty neat. I still actually haven't watched the front page. I need to put it on and check it out. But yeah, His Girl Friday, again, one of my favorites. So it had to make the list. And at number 4.
I haven't seen that one, but it is probably out of like the classics, it is probably the one that is most popped up in front of my face. Doesn't Iron Man reference that in one of the Avengers movies when after he changes from Jarvis?
Yeah, yeah, he calls his new AI Friday. Yeah,
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 yeah.
right.
So yeah, pop culture reference.
Right.
And I think this, which obviously this movie spawned.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is the 1954 version of Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn
Oh,
and
great pick.
Humphrey Bogart.
Yes.
Um, I haven't seen the newer one, which I know people always have their
Okay.
preference, which one they like. I started
Okay.
the new one, but it was too soon after I had seen the first one, and I had to stop it.
Right.
It was just one of those things.
Yeah.
But I only saw this movie a couple of years ago, but it just I was not expecting what I saw. It just a breath of fresh air. Uh, what would I assume would seem uncharacteristically funny, or almost silly for a as far as their comedy goes for a movie back then, especially a black and white movie. I don't know. You always expect them to be a little more serious, especially like if it's Humphrey Bogart or something.
Right.
But like the comedy in this one's almost comical, but not in a bad way. I haven't quite figured out how to nail it down, but like just some of the scenes are just like, wait, what?
Right.
And it just like the first time I saw it, I remember it was such a joyous experience. I was just like dying laughing at some of the scenes here. Like when they got the big party and Humphrey Bogart's like jumping or bouncing on the plastic with all the
Right.
men there watching, and you're just on looking into the room and you don't hear what they're saying or everything.
Right.
And I don't know, that moment just like made me laugh. Like he's bouncing on a piece of plastic. Like it seems ridiculous, but it's just
Right.
really funny.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Audrey Hepburn and just like the sweet character she plays and the interesting love triangle there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a great one. It's another great pick. It's one I've only seen once. I really want to watch it again. I have seen the new version as well, and I really like both. It's honestly hard for me to pick which one I like more. The new one has Harrison Ford, so maybe I lean that way because he's my favorite actor, but Bogey's one of my favorites too. So it's kind of hard to pick which one I like better. I don't know if I would say one movie's better than the other necessarily. I think they're both just really well done. Yeah, Audrey Hepburn, you're mentioning her. She's one that did a lot in this genre. And one of my favorites of hers is Roman Holiday, which I almost put on my list as well. I forgot to mention that with honorable mentions. But yeah, Sabrina's great story. Really, really fun characters. And yeah, I enjoy that one a lot. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Sabrina. I really like it.
So I do want to add one quick thing. You mentioned that you'd only seen this film once, and aside from this past week, I'd also only seen it once.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And so I was a little scared, especially after seeing Jerry Maguire for the second time and not liking it.
Right.
I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? I was a little worried. I don't know. It's just some movies, like when you see them the first time and that just first experience is so good. And especially if it's comedy related or humor related, because it's really hard for something to be just as funny the second time.
It's true.
Especially if you see it too close together, for sure then.
Right.
But watching it with other people who haven't seen it or who just love it and are willing to laugh can help combat that. But unfortunately, I was watching it alone.
Oh.
Yeah, I almost dragged my roommate into it, but he was punished with this movie, so he wasn't going to sit through it.
Right.
Yeah, so I was a little scared, apprehensive at watching it again, but I am so glad that I loved it. It wasn't, again, the humor of the first experience
sure
probably can't be topped, but
right.
I'm glad that I was not disappointed or didn't like it. It was an amazing movie.
Good. That's awesome. Great stuff. All right. Moving on to my number 3, which is a movie called The Apartment. This is a film from 1960 by Billy Wilder, who I mentioned again earlier, one of my favorite writers, directors ever. Maybe it's his best movie. He did another movie I really like called Sunset Boulevard, which is kind of like a film noir type movie. He did Double Indemnity and some others, but The Apartment is a film starring Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. And basically, it's got an interesting premise where a man works at this office building. He's kind of trying to climb the corporate ladder, and he rents out his apartment to his coworkers who are cheating on their wives in this
no.
apartment. And so he's basically doing this, to get ahead, essentially. So his boss wants to use his apartment one night with the girl that he's got a crush on. So he basically is faced with a moral dilemma. What are you willing to sacrifice for love? His career's on the line. What's more important, your job or the person you love. So it presents that kind of theme, that idea in a really compelling way. It builds the relationships really well. The dialogue is perfect. It's super well shot. It got nominated for Best Cinematography at the Oscars, was nominated for Best Actor and Actress for Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, and Best Film Editing.
Wow.
So it racked up at the Academy Awards, as it should have. It's just perfectly shot and edited, just so well done. The pacing is perfect. It's just really, really fun movie to watch. And it deals with, like I said, the themes really well. The characters are just so likable. You just enjoy watching these people on screen. And it's one that I've visited numerous times. This is the Arrow video. I don't know if you've heard of Arrow before, but they're a Blu-ray kind of boutique Blu-ray label that take a lot of movies and put out their own edition. It's got the clear instead of the traditional kind of blue.
Yeah.
It's got the clear casing. So they do that. They put different artwork inside, so you can actually flip you flip it around and have different artwork on there. So yeah, it's neat. They include the original poster art, and they get a new artist to do work on it as well. So yeah, it's really cool what they do. Arrow, they put out a lot of good stuff. I got a few of theirs for Christmas this past year. It looks great, sounds great on this format, and it's just a movie that's just super fun to watch. Again, just the construction of it, the creativity behind it, the technical aspects of it. It's just one of those movies that kind of fires on all cylinders. So this is a 5-star movie for me. The other two that I mentioned, those are like 4.5. They're close to 5-star, but this is a 5-star film. So have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I'm 0 for 3 here.
That's good. That's all good. I figured you probably would be. That's why I wanted to show you my Blu-rays in case you wanted to pick them up. So that's my number 3, The Apartment. What you got at 3, Josh?
It was pretty much a toss-up between my number 2 and number 3. And I think number 2 is going to win out just for the longevity and sentimentality, which I say longevity, and it's still like these are both 2000s or newer movies. So
sure.
But I have Emma at number 3, which is the recent version of it, not the Gwyneth Paltrow one.
Gotcha. With Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah. Yes, and
excellent.
Bill Nye.
Yeah, I've got that in my collection too.
Nice. Actually, I have 2 with Bill Nye.
Oh, cool.
And so this was a Jane Austen. It's a redoing of a Jane Austen book, which there's plenty of those being done. Persuasion, I think, was just done last year on Netflix. That was a really cool version of that as well. But what makes this one interesting is, or different, I should say, is it's kind of like quirky, whimsical. Like I can't put the right nail on the exact approach, but that air of whimsy and humor, but like still being serious and not being like flippant or anything.
Sure.
But it just captures that like almost sarcastic, snobbish, self-aware. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I absolutely love that style, especially for period pieces like this. It just makes it so interesting and fun. And of course, the entire cast is great. It's witty, it's funny. Bill Nye is hilarious as like the dad who's just kind of, he loves his kid, and he loves his family, but he's kind of like annoyed at everything. I don't know. It's a really fun movie with some good life lessons learned as well for Emma's part.
For sure. Yeah, great pick. I really like that one too. As soon as we watched that, my wife and I watched it not too long after it came out. And we were
Mm.
like, we've got to own this. Can't wait to show our daughters this one day. And like, we got to watch it again. And, so all that. Yeah, it's really, really good. I really enjoy it. It has great production design too. And,
Yes.
as most period pieces do, the costumes are really well done. And I just like how it was shot. And yeah, the cast is so good. So yeah, excellent
Yeah.
choice. All right, moving on to my number two, which is one of my favorite films from a director I really like called John Ford, known for his westerns, but this is kind of his foray into the rom-com genre. It's called The Quiet Man. This is a movie starring John Wayne, who collaborated with John Ford on tons of movies. One of his first films, the first major role for John Wayne was in a movie called Stagecoach, which is one of John Ford's early movies, early sound films, I should say. He was working back in the silent era. But yeah, they worked together on The Searchers, on Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, a lot of great westerns. It's kind of what they're known for. But this is kind of different because, first of all, it's not set in America. It's set in Ireland. So
Oh, wow.
John Wayne plays an Irish-born American who's grown up in America, comes back home to kind of reclaim his family's land. And it kind of chronicles the disputes he gets into with the locals, and particularly this woman played by Maureen O'Hara, who does a great job as this fiery redhead who, again, they kind of butt heads a lot before eventually, falling for one another. Ford won Best Director for this, which he deserved. He did a great job with it. Again, it's changing up his style a lot from the classic Western kind of thing. But there's still these great sweeping shots of the Irish landscape, which, he did for Monument Valley out in the West here in America. Wynton Hodge, who was the cinematography on this, won the Academy Award as well for the cinematography. So another, kind of hailed film by the Academy. Beautiful, just it's all Technicolor too, so it's not a black and white, and the colors really pop. It's one of my favorite looking movies that I've ever seen. It's got that classic, very filmic look to it, but the colors just really pop out. This is released by Olive Films, which is another Blu-ray boutique label. They did a really good job with this one. The transfer on it's just really, really good. It's also got a behind the scenes featurette on it too. So it's kind of got a little bit of that Western vibe again that Ford is known for, but it's just something a little different in that it's focusing, instead of on, good guys and bad guys, shootouts, it's more about this kind of star-crossed love story. So, Wayne and O'Hara are great. They've got that iconic kissing scene, which we see in E.T., which Elliot recreates with the girl in the school. I don't know if you remember that scene when they're kind of linked up. E.T.'s watching this movie on television, and Elliot's at school, and he kind of does this thing where the door blows open and he grabs the girl and kisses her. And so it's been referenced a couple times in different movies, but really fun, very funny, laugh out loud multiple times throughout this movie. Totally buy into the romance. I think that's the thing when we're talking about this genre. It's like you gotta have humor, but you also have to make sure this love story works and that we buy into it. And that this movie does that better than a lot of them. So really fun. It's known for its finale, which is I should have timed it how long it was, because I just watched this last night, but it's probably like a 10-minute fight scene. Basically, yeah, there's this fist fight that goes on for like, I don't know, it feels like 10 or 15 minutes, probably maybe only 5 or 10, but it's kind of known for that. It's very comedic and it's very kind of over the top and silly, but it's fun, and it makes sense in the story, and it works really well, and there's the final scene is really good. And so yeah, just a movie I thoroughly enjoy, for the visuals, for the characters, the story, everything. So yeah, Quiet Man made it in there at number 2.
So I haven't even heard of that movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
A tragedy, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I've seen it in ET and didn't realize.
Yeah, very briefly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because like with you saying, the romance really worked, and that was like the main thing that elevates it here above some of the other ones you picked, which is really interesting because that's not what I would expect with John Wayne. Not that he's a bad actor, but
Sure.
it's John Wayne.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. No, it is
I
a
never
very
guessed
different,
that.
yeah, it's a different role for him. Like I said, just a different movie for John Ford to make. It's kind of
Mhm.
surprising that they did this, but I'm glad they did because they really pulled it off. Kind of wish
Yeah.
they had done more like this. But yeah, Quiet Man is very, very much worth watching, worth seeking out and tracking down so you can watch it.
And it just goes to show like how good all of those the director and artists and everyone is at
Yeah.
their at what they're doing
Right.
because of the genre change. Like sometimes when a director changes genres, if they're really good at this, then like, well, you should stick with what you know. That was
Right.
garbage. But
Yeah.
this was obviously not the case. So
Yeah.
that's even more props to them for that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, that's my number two, The Quiet Man from 1952.
Hmm.
That's one worth watching for sure. So Josh, what do you got at number two?
So the one that edged out Emma would be The Princess Diaries.
Oh,
So that came
nice.
out
Okay. Yeah,
a good handful of years prior to Emma, so it's had a little more time to find its little niche in my heart somewhere,
sure.
and to sit there. So you've seen this film, right?
Oh yes, a couple
Okay,
times. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just a classic. I don't know. Like I feel like in my mind, I don't know if it's actually true, but like in my mind, The Notebook is like the quintessential or the this is what a like a romance chick flick whatever movie is.
Sure.
Like this is it. This is the
Right.
pinnacle.
Yeah.
And I actually haven't seen it, so I don't know. That's
Oh,
just maybe that was just because it was the first major one that I knew about. I don't know,
right.
but to me, that's how I viewed it.
Hmm.
So I kind of, in a similar way, kind of view even though it's not my number one, I kind of view the Princess Diaries as at least the more like this is like the quintessential modern, like just rom com.
Sure.
Um, and it doesn't lean super heavily into the romance, at least because it doesn't really happen until the end, at
Right.
least when not with the right guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a really fun movie. Anne Hathaway is excellent. This was actually the first thing I saw her in.
Hmm.
Didn't know if she was before this. I don't even know if she was anything before this. Julie Andrews obviously is amazing. Hector Elizondo, who many people probably know from Last Man Standing, plays Joe. And it was really interesting because you know how you identify certain actors as like they're this person or like this role. This is
Right.
that's who they are. You kind of pigeonhole them in your mind, and not
Yeah.
in necessarily a bad way, but you can't think of them as being anything else.
Right.
Um, and I remember seeing him in Last Man Standing, and I was like, oh, this is the guy from Princess Diaries.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe it's just because there's been so many shows that now it's like, oh, that's Edward Elzate. So anyway, but
Interesting.
so it's interesting that that took place because usually that doesn't happen. You're always like that one role. But of
Right.
course, he does an excellent job here as Joe, and just all the relationships that are built, and it's very realistic for being such a fanciful story. Like, oh, surprise, you're the princess. Like what? So I like that it was a like a fairy tale, but in real life.
Mm,
Because you don't,
right.
they just did a really good job with making it believable and realistic, and like all the characters are really realistic. High school, I was homeschooled, so I didn't go to public high school, but like it's got all the general tropes there, the jocks and the bullies, and the people who are forgotten or sat on, and different clubs like that. So I don't know. It's just a really fun, engaging movie. Mandy Moore cameos in it, which is great. Her role isn't great, but she's great. And I don't know. It's just a fun, like relatable, and then like this is like a kind of real life kind of way.
Right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I remember when it came out, definitely watching it. It was a big deal. I think more for Julie Andrews probably than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, Anne Hathaway was kind of an unknown. But yeah, just a great story. Really fun. We have the double feature Blu-ray with the
Yes.
second one as well, which I think I've only seen the second one once, but yeah, my wife is
Mm-hmm.
huge fan of this film, both of these movies, and so yeah, I enjoy it greatly. Again, I haven't seen it many times, but I do remember it being very funny. I remember it, enjoying it when I watched it. So yeah, good cast too, and that's funny that you mentioned that about the actor thing. That is very true. I think we do that a lot, where there's an actor we tie to a certain role, especially if we don't see them in a lot of other things.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely true. So yeah, excellent choice for your number two.
And it's got some like things from it have made it into pop culture references,
Oh,
like
sure.
the moose bit and like, oh,
Right.
someone sat on me again,
Right.
stuff like that, which is pretty funny.
Yes,
Or
definitely.
the making jokes on the leg popping.
Right, right, exactly. Yes, all of that has made it into the vernacular now for sure. Excellent. Okay, well, we are already on our number one pick. So here we go. My number one favorite romantic comedy is The African Queen.
Mm.
So this is a film by John Huston, who's a director who kind of dabbled in many genres. He did stuff like Asphalt Jungle, which is like a heist film. He did film noir like Maltese Falcon. He did big adventure movies. This is sort of a adventure rom-com, so it's kind of blends the genres even more than just a strict romantic comedy because it is
Mm.
a film that takes place in 1914. It was made in 1951, but it takes place in
Okay.
1914 in East Africa while the Germans have started occupying this part of the world. So,
Oh.
um, kind of a war movie in the background going on, but it's basically Katharine Hepburn plays a missionary who
Huh.
has to kind of escape. So she gets on this riverboat with this very rude, crass riverboat captain played by Humphrey Bogart. So another odd couple pairing, right? It's that kind of trope
Mhm.
again. Very different types of characters here. But they just do such a great job playing off of one another. Really fun to watch. Her very prim and proper Christian woman with this kind of guy that's lives life on the edge and isn't used to having to take care of a lady. So it's a great relationship. The way it develops is wonderful. There's a lot of excitement obviously with the Germans kind of hot on their trail and kind of trying to evade them and evading the dangers of the jungle and the river that they're on and all that stuff. So it's just really fun to watch in general. John Huston does a great job. Humphrey Bogart won Best Actor for this film,
Oh, nice.
which is one of, I think, only a couple Oscars that he got in his career.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just fun. It's adventurous. Great effects work. The music is really good. Excellent camera work. Shot on location in Africa. So, it's got that going for it. It kind of spawned this kind of subgenre that I'm talking about with movies like, you know, Raiders obviously has that kind of vibe to it. There's
Hmm.
kind of the romance is more in the background of this one, where it's more in the front of this. But movies that did it as well as stuff like The Mummy kind of did that.
Mm.
Has that kind of feel. Romancing the Stone is one that's I think even
I was gonna ask
closer.
that.
Yeah, this one's even closer to African Queen because it has the romance more at the forefront of the story.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think African Queen is the best of all of them. I mean, really, it really does it so well. I just watched it again this weekend. It's a 5-star movie. I just really enjoy, and I have enjoyed many times. So yeah, African Queen made it to the top. It's number one.
Well, I'm really sorry to say I haven't seen any of them,
Well, that's fine
but
because that's why we do this, so you can know what
yeah,
to watch.
now I have five. Well, and your honorable mentions too. Now I have several movies that I've not been avoiding, but just not seeking after
Sure.
for a while. That I just need to actually watch them.
There you
So
go.
that, and a couple that I hadn't heard of or didn't realize were good movies.
Yeah,
Not that I thought they
yeah.
were bad. I just didn't know. So
Sure,
that's
sure.
awesome.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, and as you can tell, Indie being my favorite movie, I'm into that whole adventure kind of pulpy adventure movie style, and
Oh
this
yeah.
fits right in there. But again, it has the comedic, romantic angle that it's really pushing at its core. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so that's kind of why it made it to number one. So,
Okay.
without further ado, we're on to your number one, Josh. What do you got?
So my number one also has Bill Nye. It is About Time, starring Donald Gleason and Rachel McAdams. Yes,
I knew
yes.
this was one of your favorite movies ever, so I figured it had to be number one. So I
It
pulled it
is
out.
one of nice, nice. Bit of clairvoyance there. Yes, it is one of my favorite movies ever. There is a bit of a content warning here as well, but yeah, it's for me, the first time I watched it, I don't even know why I watched it. Maybe it's because I like Donald Gleason as an actor. He's not like a big name actor. He's not in the front of everything, but he does well in everything I've seen him in. And I like Rachel McAdams too. But I don't know. I think just maybe the cover intrigued me. But I remember watching it the first time, and I don't know. I just like really identified with Donald Gleason's character. Just kind of like this, like almost nobody, like no one really, like he's just kind of going about his own business, and everyone kind of, some people give him a hard time, but you know, his family loves him, and kind of awkward. The main part that really grabbed me was when he obviously gets married to Rachel McAdams, her character, and they have a child. And well, actually, one quick aside I really like about this movie is that a lot of these rom-com movies end with getting married or getting back into a relationship or something like that. And this one carries on well into their marriage, which I thought was really cool. You don't often see that. But yeah, when they have their child, and he, like, they show the scene of him holding the baby for the first time. I don't know. I just like was like, wow, that's probably exactly what it would be like for me to hold a baby. I don't know. Can't really explain it, but I just like really identified with him in that scene. So yeah, and it's really funny, really witty. The romance is cool. It starts off with they meet in a I wish we had more of these places. I wish we had any of these places in America, or I just don't know about them. But this restaurant where it's all dark, and you have someone lead you in and sit you down at the table. And like, that's such a cool concept, meeting someone and you can't see them. And I know people have done stuff like there's that show on, I think, Netflix about where you're just talking to the other person. But I don't know, this is like a cool way where anybody can meet. I don't know, it's such a cool idea. Yeah, I don't know. I really love the movie, and the twist here. I also really like movies that are rom-coms that have twists, or romantic movies that have twists, like The Lake House has like a time element, whatever. And this one has a time travel element where the men in the family can travel, like if time is a string, they can travel along their string. And I just think that's such an interesting concept. And it wasn't just like a gimmick. It wasn't a gimmick that they made in the movie. It wasn't oh, doing this has consequences. And they showed that really well. It just leaves me with a smile on my face. I saw one reviewer on Letterboxd. They said the movie is like a warm hug. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's a good summation. Yeah, it does. It's very sweet, and it very much, even with the kind of sci-fi angle, feels very grounded, very realistic. You buy into the characters. They feel like real people. So yeah, this one's a lot of fun. It really is a great movie. I mean, I give this one 5 stars as well. This is one of my favorite of the genre. It's really, really well done. The characters, their whole journey is really fun to watch. It's one of those movies that it's a fun rom-com, but it also really makes you think. It's very, very emotional, has some very intense scenes, dramatic scenes, but it makes you think a lot. It's kind of funny because our pastor today preached on time. His sermon was titled Theology of Time. And so this is kind of cool. An apt movie to talk about right now, because time has changed, right? It's all about how our lives change, and this movie really covers that very well. There's another movie that I almost put in here, called Groundhog Day, which deals with kind of a similar idea. This is a time loop, so it's a little different, but again, this is kind of a rom-com, at its core. That's really what it's about. So yeah, this would be a good double feature if you could do these two together. But yeah, About Time, it kind of stands out a lot, again, because of, I think, the dedication of the actors to their roles, the relationships, the family element, all of it is just seamlessly blended together. And also the technical side, the cinematography and the music and everything is really well done. So yeah, this is an excellent choice. I probably would have put it in my list, but I knew you'd have it in yours, so I decided to pick something a little different. But excellent selection. All right, folks. Well, that will do it for us on this episode of the Real World Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here on episode 35. We really appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. If you're a movie fan, I think you'll get a lot out of this channel. Be sure to also follow Josh. He has his own YouTube channel. Wanted to promote that. It's called Film Seed. So we'll put that link in the description below. You can go straight to his channel and subscribe. He's been putting out some really cool videos there. So thanks again, Josh, for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Make sure you comment below also with your top 5 rom-coms, and we'll be happy to have a conversation down there with you about that. Be on the lookout for the Reelies. Josh and I are working on this with my co-host Bert. The award show, our first annual award show, we're really excited about. We're getting a lot of presenters involved. There are going to be 15 categories. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're covering all the movies that were released in 2022. So if you want to be a part of that, you can actually drop your top 10 movies of 2022 in the comments below. We'll put that into our list of nominees, and it should be a lot of fun. That's coming up next month in March. We're planning on recording that the same night as the Oscars, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.